Welcome back to the C.T.W. podcast. I'm your host, Duranquez Wynn, and thank you for watching. In this episode, I wanted to talk about something that may seem a little countercultural, and I may get some backlash for it because of maybe your favorite motivational speaker or whoever you may trust. This may be countercultural to them, but just hear me out as I talk about it. I want to talk about losing to win. In Luke 17:33, give me a second. Jesus is talking to the disciples, and he says, whoever seeks to save his life will eventually lose it through death, and whoever loses his life in this world will keep it from the consequences of sin and separation from God. And so that's something that I kind of wanted to talk about, how certain things that Jesus said are definitely countercultural to the way the world is going. And of course, I don't know you guys' life. Everybody has everybody's life is different. Some aspects of people's lives are the same, but what I want to say is that at this moment, think about your life. Think about some of the things that you've went through in your life, some of the things that you may have endured, some of the things that you may have put yourself in, some of the things that you did out of hedonistic desires. Think about some of those things in your life and think about where those things led you. Think about how those things got you maybe stuck in a cycle with someone you weren't supposed to date. Maybe it got you stuck in a mental state that caused you to regress backwards. Maybe it got you stuck in a financial burden. Maybe it put you in a spiritual stronghold, a mental stronghold. Maybe it put you in something that you did not intend for yourself to be in. And that's something that I would like to talk about, is how anytime that we try to save our own lives and how we are taking the necessary steps for what culture says to put us in the best situation, sometimes that step, that process, or that desire to save our own lives can cause us to lose our life and cause us to lose what God intended for us to have with Him. I know it is completely countercultural to say, hey, don't go after this and don't go after that, and don't do these things and don't do these things. But there are certain things God did not intend for us to do. There are certain things that God did not intend for us to get into because of what it may do to our lives, what it may do to our relationship with Him. And I understand that you have to do what you have to do in this life because there are some things that are just unavoidable. You have to make money, you have to take care of yourself, you have to do certain things, whatever your situation or circumstance may be, you have to provide, protect, you have to do what you need to do. But there does come a point when you are in a stable position. There does come a point when you are in a place where you no longer have to do the things that got you where you are. There does come a point where you have to lay those things down. There does come a point where you should feel that you need to lose those things. Because if not, you're just losing your life. You're withering away, you're moving further and further away from God and what He is calling us to be in Him. And one of the things that I would like to say is that when it comes to losing your life, it does not mean you have to let go of everything. It does not mean you have to go out here and quit your job. It does not mean you have to break up, get a divorce, or it does not mean if things aren't going how you like them to go, or if your life is in a situation that you just is not favorable to you and you put yourselves in those situations. It does not mean you need to go and just immediately get rid of everything. what I am saying is that in the process of you regaining control, in the process of allowing God to govern your life, he will weed those things out. He will get those things out of your life. Now there will be some participation on your part. You will have to do some work in order to lose some things in your life that may not be good for you, that may not be edifying to your character, that may not be good to your spirit, that may not be good for your mental health, that even though it may be providing finances, even though it may be providing that comfort that you have been longing for, even though it may be providing whatever that plan or that purpose you have written out for your life on your vision board, even though it may be accomplishing those things. And I'm not saying that everything that you're doing is not of God, because there are certain desires that he gives us to have for his glory. Certain things that you desire, God gives you that desire so that for he can get the glory out of your life. And so what I'm saying is that in the beginning, when I was talking, I said, think back on your life. Think about all the decisions that you've made. Think about all the things that you've went through. Think about all the things that you've endured. Think about what those things caused you in your life. Think about whether it was positive, whether it was negative, whether it was neutral, because sometimes we can make decisions for ourselves and they're neither good or bad. Sometimes they're right in the middle. Sometimes they're teetering more towards good than they are bad. And I would like to add to anyone, or I would like to give a perspective of that does not mean just because it was neutral, just because it was more good than bad, it does not mean it still was not detrimental to your life. 1 Corinthians 10:26, actually 10:23, it says, all things are lawful, that is morally legitimate, permissible, but not all things are beneficial or advantageous. All things are lawful, but not all things are constructive to character and edifying to spirit life. Let no one seek, this is verse 24, let no one seek only his own good, but also that of the other person. And sometimes, just most of the time, the way we as people make decisions, we'll kind of gauge it whether or not it's good or it's bad. And just because it's not bad does not mean it's good, because it could lead you in a place to where you can be in spiritual bondage. It could lead you in a place to where you could be in mental bondage. It could lead you in a place to where you could be in just warfare mentally. I was going to say spiritual warfare, but all warfare is not spiritual. It's just warfare on the mind. It could be a place where the enemy is waiting for you to get weaker and weaker so he can hit you. And a lot of times what I would like to submit is that a lot of times the devil is not looking to make you fall right away. Sometimes the devil is looking to make you slip, because if he can make you slip, you'll be too focused on what you slipped on, and then he can come and knock you out. You'll be too focused to see what you slipped on, and then he's come and you're like, okay, how did I slip? Where did I slip? Which eliminates your focus to actually see where he's weaving his way in. And just because we are doing things in our lives that are providing that thing that we want for ourselves, it does not mean, and this is not for everybody. Only you, that's why I said only you know your life. It's going to be different for each and every person. But that does not mean it's what God intended for us. It does not mean it's what he has for us for edification of character. It does not mean it's what he has for us for building of the spirit. It does not mean it's what he has for us to reach that level of growth in him that he desires for us to have. And I know you have some people out there that say, well, if he didn't want me to do it, he wouldn't open the door for it to happen. Or if he didn't want me to do it, he wouldn't allow it to happen. I would like to submit that's not true, because in the beginning of the Bible, God gave us choice, and we are the only thing that God has given choice that doesn't have to worship him out of natural ability. We have a mind that has given us choice. And so when it comes to certain things that are going on, I know you have some people out here that say, well, if God didn't want it to happen, he wouldn't allow it to happen. And that's not true. Certain things come up to see how you respond, to see how you would do those, to see what your choice may be. God will not override your choice. He will not make you lay anything down. He will not make you lose anything. So therefore you can be, have a perfect life with him. And I know for some people that is very mind-blowing, and I know it bothers some people, but one thing I would like to give a perspective on is he doesn't need anything from us. We need everything from him. And for the people that say, oh, if God didn't want it to happen, he wouldn't allow it to happen, or if God wanted me to have this, he would have gave it to me, or well, I don't have this by now, so I guess it's not what he wanted me to have, or well, I thought I heard God say this and it's not going how I thought it was going to go. I want to submit to you is that he does not do things. When we ask him for things, he does things for his glory. I know that may be shaking to some people, but God does things for his glory. And the thing about it is that with him being a loving father and understanding that he's given us a choice, he will not step in the way of your desires. He will not step in the way of what you have for you, because it would not be love if he made you do it. It would not be love if you did not choose to go the opposite way. It would not be love if you chose to, if he didn't give you a choice whether or not to obey his precepts, his commands, and his rulings. It would not be love. It would be robotical. It would be authority. It would be like a dictatorship. And that's not what God wants from us, because it wouldn't be authentic. And there are certain people that I have talked to, there's certain people that say, well, God is selfish for only doing things for his glory. And why would he do this? And why would he allow X, Y, and Z to happen? How is he such a good God? And I would like to submit to you is that God is not life. So life happens, and then we blame God for life happening because of how God has been represented. Once certain things happened in the beginning of the earth, God could not dwell here. And so what happened is that things were interrupted. Now it allowed sin to come in. So certain things happened in life. Certain things that happen in life are outside of God because he's no longer here. What happens is that now when certain things happen, because of one, people don't seek help, one, lack of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because of just bitterness and anger, people need something to put the blame on. And a lot of times, most people do not want to take the blame for themselves. Most people don't want to do the work and have self-awareness to say, you know what, this is my fault, or what happened was because of me, or whatever it may be. And that's not all situations. Some situations are genuinely just life. Just life taking its course. Most people just don't want to do the work to say the reason that I lost that job was because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And most people just don't have that. Yeah, self-awareness. I was looking for a different word, but self-awareness was the only thing that kept coming up. And there are certain things, just we as individuals, that we pick up along the way in life that changes, that develops our perspective, that we have literally put on ourselves, that from from people that we love, from parents to mentors to spiritual leaders to pastors to churches, any of that stuff. There are certain things that we put on, that we genuinely endure, that develop our perspective, that literally change how we view certain things. And for us, there are certain things that we feel, because of our lack of guidance, we feel that we need to do these things. The things that we are doing, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not hurting anybody. They're not causing any damage. They're not any of that stuff. And like I said, that is for your personal introspection. That is for you to take up with God. That is something that you need to go spend time in His presence with. If you aren't very keen on hearing the voice of God, I would submit that you get in a group of people, or you find some people that you trust and you run it by them and you ask God for confirmation in that way. And trust me, God will definitely give you confirmation in that way. They will either say the same thing, or they will all say the same thing in a similar way. That is one way that you know is God is speaking to you. And for me, that's what I do. Anytime when I was in my earlier stages, and even now, sometimes that I needed to make sure that I was making the appropriate decisions for my life, I would call some people that I trusted. I would ask them, hey, how does this sound? I would say, hey, God, speak to me through them in this time, because I'm having a hard time hearing you, or I don't know where to look for this in your word. And 9 times out of 10, they will all come back and say similar things in different ways. That is the whole point of me starting this podcast. Without those people, me alone did not give me enough assurance that it was God speaking to me to start this. So I called those people and I was like, all right, cool. Let me call these people and see if I need to start this, or is it just me? Because I never want to start anything without His approval. I understand that the way culture is, I understand the way life is. They say, go take all your opportunities, go get the bag, go do everything, explore everything. And one of the things, this is where losing the wind comes in, is that in that process of you trying to save your life, you trying to explore, you trying to get out there and you trying to get that bag, you're losing. You're losing in the area of actual peace, God's peace. You're losing in the area of actual rest. You're losing in the area of actually building your character. You're losing in the area of a deeper, more intimate relationship with God. And that's not something that He wants for us. That's not His desire for us. That may be your desire for yourself, but that's not His desire for us. And whatever, like I said, you know your life, you understand, you, as far as you can recall, every situation and circumstance that you've been in, what that situation has done to your life, what that situation has provided for you, whether negative or positive, whether it is something that is beneficial, whether it's something that is detrimental, whether it's something that you gain wisdom and knowledge from, whether it's something that you're still trying to figure out. Those situations are those situations where you have to lose certain things in order to win certain things. And that's in Luke 17:33. God is saying that if Jesus is talking to the disciples and saying, hey, you trying to save your life, you're going to end up losing your life. But if you lose your life, you will save your life. And what I would like to, a perspective that I would like to give, is that you continually going after the things of the world, and not the world as in drinking, partying, smoking, because not those things of the world. I mean the things of, if you don't get your rest, if you don't spend time in the presence of the Father, if you don't get yourself in a group with people that can build you up and edify your character to change certain situations and circumstances in your life, if you don't get in a place of discipline, if you don't get in a place of good character, good stewardship, if you don't get those things, you're going to lose your life. There are certain things, and we'll talk about this in a different podcast, but when God called, every time God called a person, or any time that God did call certain people of the Bible, I'm not going to say all people, when He called a certain person most of the time, and I'm talking about a particular story where Moses and the children of Israel, the only reason the children of Israel and Moses didn't get into the promised land is because of character. They depended more on their desires than they did the word of God. So God told them, hey, you will not see the land that I promised to give you because you have honored your word over my word. You have honored your desires over my desires. You have honored your character. You have honored the way you wanted to go about things over the way I said go about things. And if you go read the story, let's see, it's in Exodus. Let's talk about it. Give me a second. As a matter of fact, to keep it simple, Deuteronomy 1 through 46, if anyone decides to go read it, anyone wants to read it, that explains why the children of Israel did not get to where God promised them that they would go. But it's because they honored their desires, their words, their precepts. They honored them over God's word. They had more awe-filled reverence, more respect, more fear for their word and the way they wanted to do things over the way God said do it and how God told them to go. And most people, when it comes to fear, they have a very bad perception of fear. Fear just means awe-filled reverence, respect. Fear the world's way. I don't know the exact definition, but I can look it up. So fear, that how the world gives it, is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain and or threat. Be afraid of someone or something as likely to be dangerous, painful, or threatening. And so, because of the misrepresentation of the church, and no disrespect to any church, because of the misrepresentation of spiritual leaders, no one really breaks down what fear means. Fear just means awe-filled reverence, profound respect. Fear the world's way just means seeing something that's threatening or dangerous. If you are not careful to understand both of them, you will interject the world's fear on God. When God is saying, hey, don't do this, God is not saying, be scared of me, so this is why you don't do this. No, he's saying, have enough respect, awe-filled reverence, respect of me to not do these things because I understand that your way is better. Have enough love and enough intimacy with me, spend enough time with me to understand that the reason that I'm telling you not to do this is because it's the best thing for you. But if you do fear the world's way, it's going to be, oh, I fear God because he's threatening, he's dangerous. How can you have an intimate, loving relationship with the Father if you find him threatening or dangerous? You're going to want to stay away from him as much as possible. And so but yeah, all of those things, like I said, you know your life. Think back, write it down, think about everything that you've endured, every decision that you've made that you can recall, every person that you've encountered, some negative things, some positive things, some neutral things, and think about how those things have impacted your life. Think about how you could have shaped it. Now, I do want to give this disclosure before ending the pod, is that after you have become aware of those things, allow yourself grace to say, okay, I'm aware of it now. Now let's move forward accordingly. Don't sit in the pity party. Don't beat yourself up, whatever the situation may be. Like I said, I don't know you guys' life, but whatever the situation may be, regardless of what it is, allow yourself grace. Allow God to exhibit and give you his grace for yourself so you can continue to move forward and be aware and start losing the things of your life and obtaining the things of God's life that he has for you. But yeah, like I said, that's something that I felt I needed to talk about. But I appreciate you guys for watching. I thank you. And I am